So welcome to week 39 of Beloved Blackness. I'm Dr. B. So today, like I mentioned last week, we're going to talk about Kwanzaa. So Dr. Maulana Karenga in 1966 developed the holiday of Kwanzaa for African Americans, and it's a 7-day tradition. Each day is grounded in one of the principles from the Nguzo Saba. Okay, and so the principles of Kwanzaa for day one is Umoja. Umoja means unity. The second day is Kujichagulia, which is self-determination. The third day is Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. The fourth day is Kuumba. The fourth day is Ujamaa, which is Cooperative Economics. The fifth day is Nia, which is purpose. The sixth day is Kuumba, which is creativity. And the seventh day is Imani, which is faith. Okay, since today is day 2, we're going to start off how we typically would greet one another on Kwanzaa. Okay, so I would say Abaragani, and all that means is what's the news, and then your response is whatever that particular day of Kwanzaa is. All right, so I'd say Abaragani, then you say Kujichagulia because it's day 2 of Kwanzaa. And so Kujichagulia is actually one of my favorite principles of Kwanzaa, and it means self-determination. And so, we think about who we are and how we're grounded in terms of our African sense of ourselves. You remember, self is never connected to an individual identity alone, all right? So our sense of ourselves is always grounded in, we have our personal selves, then we have our cultural selves, we have our collective selves, we have our spiritual selves, we have our ancestral selves. So we have all these aspects of who we are when we think about who we are as African descended people that's not grounded in the Eurocentric way of thinking about the self, right, as just one isolated individual. No, we're all connected. We're connected to one another in terms of our family, our community, our ancestors, the children who've yet to be born. And so all of our sense of ourselves is determined when we have a sense of who we are grounded in all those different layers of our identity. So that's really important. There's a quote when I think of Kujichagulia. Several quotes come to mind, but one in particular that I love that I want to read to you by one of my favorite theologians and mystics, and that's Reverend Howard Thurman. So he says, "There is something in every one of you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true God you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it, you will all of your life spend your days on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls." How profound, right? So when we think about all the things I've talked about this year as it relates to the impact of the Ma'afa and how so much of our identity has been shaped based on the trauma of the Ma'afa, but also one of the key elements to that when we talked about Dr. Linda James Meyer's phases of oppression is then adopting the values and ideals and sense of history and cultural traditions of our oppressor and forsaking our own experiences. And so when we think about Kujichagulia of self-determination, it means grounding ourselves in who we are, our sense of our identity. So like I mentioned earlier, not having our individual identity be what we're grounded in, but to have our sense of our identities be, yes, our personal experiences are important, but they are only one piece to the context of our whole sense of ourselves. And so part of self-determination is being able to say, hold on, I'm not going to be defined by the values, the worldview, the experiences, the history, the tradition of our oppressor. I am going to be guided by the values of who my ancestors have been, what my own cultural experiences are. And so in the spirit of what Maulana Karenga wanted to create with Kwanzaa, which is for us to actually have a sense of ourselves and to value our cultural traditions, think about this particular principle, self-determination, Kujichagulia, today with this new light around identity and our cultural sense of ourselves, and try to identify maybe something within your own life that you want to have a different way of determining how you see yourself in light of your cultural history and tradition. All right, until next week.